important. CPD is the, let's say, short form of continuing professional development. Importance of it, stages of CPD, what are the different models, what are the major components, and continuing professional development in this digital age. So this is what we are going to discuss today. What is continuing professional development? What is going for any formal definition, which actually means nothing but looking out for ideas or techniques, as I think Sri Nidya has put very nicely. Want to know the latest technology. That is, you want to learn how to handle a classroom better. Probably it could be technology or teaching methodology. It is actually a planned, continuous, and a lifelong process. Unlike other professions, teaching is not 24/7. Today, other professions, other fields are discovering work from home concept. Apart from IT, other departments are also discovering. Whereas teaching as such, if you see, there is no work from home or work from office. We always work. Taking the paper correction or preparing material, preparing lessons for next day classes, or reading up some material to get some information. We have always been busy preparing something. In fact, I have had comments like, how come I see you write, I mean, as a teacher, you doing homework more than the students. That seems to be the work. So basically, continuing professional development is actually trying to find some ideas and techniques that will help us manage our own learning process. That is what. You can look at the other definition on the screen. Okay, now it's the chat box time. Why do you think CPD is important? How can we do for rural area? That's an interesting question. There are too many questions now. Okay, now answer this. Why do you think this is important? All of you have assembled here for a webinar looking at the title. So why do you think this is important? We need to upgrade. Wow, are we systems? Okay, you got the right point, Dr. Maitreyi. Why do you think it is important? Yes, we need to update ourselves. That's very important. Anything else? Need of the hour. Very good. Stay abreast. Ilamati is abreast with the existing technology. We are native of digital. Ugh. Okay. Stay par with current and developing oneself, ourselves. Kokila. Divya is stay par with the current trend. Okay, lot of thing about we need to move on with digital era. Okay. Sustainability. Students are advanced in technology, so we need Anand is telling. Dr. Maitreyi again. Okay, generation is it better with technology? Okay, let me just sum up you were all trying to say. Okay, updating knowledge, collaborating, latest techniques, getting feedback so that I can improve my teaching. It is a continuous learning. As a teacher, I need to do reflective teaching. I can do better with the reflective teaching. And wait, let me check out what is this improved performance. Yeah, that is also important. But of all that, job security. Today, if I'm not updated, I might not even have a job anymore. I'm not even talking permanent or temporary, whatever. Even if you might be working in a permanent position, you will be stuck up in that position. Whereas your juniors who are much more advanced in their methodology and technology, going fast forward behind. So that all these reasons, we need to keep ourselves updated. We need to add on to our knowledge, to be a continuous learner. So that's why CPD becomes very important. Okay. Now, if you see, these are the different stages of CPD. You can see, okay, voice is breaking. Can you hear me? Hello, guys.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Someone commented that voice is breaking. That's why I was wondering. Okay. Look at the 6 stages of CPD. You'll have to see where you are looking. First is on the top left is the starting. Starting stage is for students, research scholars. We might be having, already Sukanya is a research scholar, I believe. Now, Sukanya kind of research scholars who are just starting their academic career, who probably are doing their doctoral research, will come into this stage. Now, as a research scholar, it's not like they would have finished their master's. So they might be even starting a profession, or as a research scholar, they might even be teaching in the class as a field study. ELT research, if you see, mostly it happens in the classroom. So starting stage people, they come under the first stage. Then newly qualified. I got all my doctoral degree. Okay, I'm qualified to teach. I also got a job. But what do I go and teach? That's newly qualified. Developing is a teacher who has started working maybe 1 or 2 years, still experimenting, not very sure about certain things. Oh my God, how to teach present perfect and past perfect? That kind of doubts we have. Then you have proficient teachers who are more experienced, who are comfortable with the teaching, but may not be up to date with the latest technology. Then we have the other two categories, advanced and specialists, who are more experienced, who are more into this, like, keeping up to date with the latest learning. They come under the category who can be offering the CPT. So advanced stage and specialist stage are the last two stages. Now you'll have to see where you fall under, and what kind of, then comes to the question, what kind of training do you need? That brings to the next one. Yeah, there are actually different types of training, continuous professional development. This 9 forms are suggested by Eileen Kennedy. It's a very popular one. If you see, first one is a training model. Training model is actually a very traditional model. You have heard the term in-service training and pre-service training, that kind of training. Now, if you see in this training, what happens is a group of teachers, say 50 or 100 or 20 or 30, depends on whatever the number, they are given training on different teaching methodologies or technology, whatever, some 10 days, 15 days, or even 1 month training is given. But one drawback with this is a very traditional model and it has been followed throughout the world. But one problem with this kind of training is training most of the time happens off-site. It doesn't happen in the classroom. So sometimes the situation is very artificial. It's not realistic. It's not authentic. I'll give you an example. I was involved in a corporate office which was doing training school teachers and integrating technology in classroom teaching. So we used to have 20 teachers for 10 to 15 days. And in our office, corporate office, where we have a conference room set up with 24/7 internet with a high broadband width. So with no problem, and all materials easily accessible in CDs, books, and internet resources. After 10 days training, the teachers were all very excited, very happy. They were doing a lot of nice, interesting ideas, presentations on the last day. So after they go back to the schools, we went to check out how they are doing. What we found is most of the teachers are doing blackboard and chalk. I was actually shocked. When I asked the teacher, she said, you people give training in a setup where everything is easily accessible, 24/7 power, or you have a power backup, and then you have internet and everything. Here, we don't even have a basic power. How do you expect us to implement what all we learned integrating technology in a classroom teaching? So these kind of training model, if you see, it really actually doesn't work that well. So so it is actually, but for a big populated, a densely populated country like ours, this is still a working model, but it has its deficiencies. The next is an award-bearing model where an external agency comes and conducts a training and it awards certificates. Like it could be a British Council or a Cambridge. It could be certification. So that agency's importance bears how valid the training is. Deficit model is where you identify, okay, my teacher is having a problem in this area, so they should be given training. Okay, example is this technology. So my teachers are not comfortable in using technology. Okay, let me give training. But the problem here is, who is the one who decides it? Is it the management, or is it the like some other teachers? I think someone else wants. Tamiyarasi, can you chat what exactly you need? She has raised a hand. She wants to say something. Tamiyarasi. Okay, please post your comment in chat box if there is any query. I'll try to respond. Okay, coming to the deficit model again, who decides whose deficit becomes a problem area? But yes, that is also a workable model. Cascade model is like this: train the trainer. It's a very popular model in our government training, where you train 50 teachers and the 50 teachers go and train 100 teachers. Like that, it cascades. Cascade level training really works well. Standards based one is based on the competencies, like, certain standard the teachers have to get. For example, I'll tell you, say, in a foreign language certification, teachers who get C2 level certificate can teach, they say. But again, the teachers who get all C2 level cannot be a good teacher. So that also has little problem. Counseling and mentoring is coaching and mentoring. Coaching and mentoring is another popular model where you have senior teacher coaching a junior teacher. This is basically one-to-one. It is very, very effective model. Classroom size technology ratio, yes, it is a problem, but when we are talking about the models, that doesn't feature here. Okay, coming back to this coaching and mentoring, coaching relates more to the skills coaching, whereas mentoring is more of professional relationship. Community practice is similar to coaching and mentoring, but here it is not one-to-one, it is a group. A group of people come together and they try to solve. It's like focus group or the special interest groups which comes and tries out, sort some solution. That's a very good model. Action research is the most effective model where the teacher himself or herself decides what is the problem in my class, identifies the problem, and then tries to work out some kind of a solution, see whether it works or not, and then records it. If it works, then he shares. That's action research model. Transformative is a mix of all this, but it's more focused on the transformation it is expecting. Now, what kind of model of CPD is I need depends on what is the purpose of training you're having. Now, that purpose can be either transmission, transition, or transformation. Now, transmission is transmitting some kind of a knowledge. So, in that training model, award bearing model, or a deficit cascade model will fall under that. Transition is where an external agency plays a role in change of something. Standards, coaching and mentoring, and community of practice will come into it. Transformation model is where it's more internal. Action research and transformative model will come into it. Now, for all this model, what exactly am I going to go for training? What kind of training I'm expecting? Like you people were talking about technology. I need to update myself with the latest technology to teach the digital natures, all that. So the content part of it, a continuing professional development for a teacher should have these 4 components. Now, these 4 components are not exclusive. They are interrelated. Digital literacy, subject knowledge, networking, research. Now, all the 4 are interrelated. Now, subject knowledge, you talk about, let's start with subject knowledge. As a teacher, first thing is we should have the basic subject knowledge. How many times our students look, I've heard the students' feedback. Students are very ruthless. They give a feedback. I remember students telling, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about, so we don't care to listen. Some of the comments about some teachers they were giving. So for a teacher, first thing is he or she should have the subject knowledge, how to go about doing it. These are some, these, you know this, all of us know. All of us know this. It is nothing, I'm not telling anything new. Reading, but how many of us are actually reading? I know for sure even research scholars don't read everything. And even reading, right kind of reading, I don't know how many of them are reading the right way. What do you mean by the right way? Like, see, I know some of the scholars I've said read, they were taking ages to read a book. Now you don't have to read from first page to last page. You need to skim through and then identify the main chapters, main topics, and read that one. You read it very in an intensive reading. So first of all, reading skills as a teacher, you should have first, then to teach others. That skimming and scanning, you should be very proficient. And getting books these days are not difficult. You don't have to see, earlier days we used to go to library. In fact, for getting good ELT books, Hyderabad used to be the best. For MPhil and PhD, it was like mandatory. We should go and collect materials from the libraries over there, or even Bangalore. Chennai, we used to have State Institute of English, which is not there anymore. We used to have wonderful books. British Council used to have wonderful ELT section, but nothing is available these days. American Center does have a library, but it's a very limited section. So we'll have to, let's say, resort to online books. Thanks to this lockdown, many books, journals have been made freely available through online. Even if it is not freely available, we have sites like LibGen or BookOS, which allows you to download, which is not legal. So I'm not posted it here in the slide, but yes, it is easily available. Apart from books, attending conference, that's the easiest way. Some of the activities I do in my class, some of it is from the book and some of it is from the workshops and conferences I've attended. See, I would have attended some activity which had worked well. I take it to my class and adapt it to the class. I will not use it as it is what I take from the book, and directly I will never ever use it. So it could be a faculty development program or a short-term courses you attend. Either one of these courses, you get a lot of subject knowledge. Online courses. Now, thanks to this lockdown, these online courses have become so popular. There are people who have been attending online courses long back, not just lockdown. You have interesting online courses being offered now. So many online courses are available. You probably can get some kind of a knowledge from these courses or online resources. Okay, annotate the shared content. Can you please comment in the chat so that I can tell others also? Okay, online resources is another one. Who is
No, that
Jay?
annotate is not. It is not necessary, ma'am. You can continue.
I know. I think Dr. Jayachitra, can you just comment on the chat box? You can't annotate on the content. Okay, online resources is the other one. When I say online resources, we have plenty of websites available. Now, as a teacher, first thing is you need to know the right resources. Sometimes it's too many for us to get lost. So you need to be able to identify the right resources. And this is, that brings to the thing. Now, when you're getting this, what do you do with this? After you read a book, okay, let me ask this August gathering. A lot of teachers here. After you read a book, what do you do with that? Can someone comment in the chat box? You read a book. What do you do with that? Someone in chat box. Can we have a comment? Take notes? Yes. Okay, Anand says take notes. Will note the important points, share with friends, make a thematic analysis. Who is this? Marithi. Very good answer. Okay, put it into practice if possible. Amuda. Okay, now see, this nice suggestion, Dr. S. Maridai. Yeah, okay, very nice suggestions. But the thing is, certain books when I read, it may not be applicable immediately. Read another book connected to it, CBKIBS, I don't know who is it. Share it wherever possible. Take notes. Now, this note making itself, I had a problem. I'm telling from my personal view. In the early days when I'm taking notes, I would be writing a lengthy notes. In fact, my notes became bigger than the actual book I was reading. So taking the notes right way. Then I started shortening. As you grow older, you start learning from your own mistakes. But you know what? I used to make notes, very nice, lengthy, detailed notes or nice points, summarizing all the points. And I'll put it in a place and then I'll forgot where I wrote it. I have done that. Many a times I'll be going searching, hunting after the book. Where is the book I wrote that? Where is the book I wrote that? Or I would have noticed a wonderful quote and I would write it. But then I want to use it somewhere. I would have forgotten where I kept it. It really was maybe it is a personal problem, but it is a problem. Making notes is fine. Making notes is fine, but again, that using that notes effectively, whether using it for a classroom, I mean, discuss it with my kids. Sangeeta says so many questions. That's a very good answer. Because kids come up with so many questions which you wouldn't have thought. Even simple thing is, you design some material and you think students will ask these kind of questions. Let me be prepared. And when you go to class, students will come up with other questions which you didn't even think of. So trying it out is fine. But basically, when you read some material, either it's a workshop or book or something, how do you put it down? How do you document it? In fact, when I joined this project, British Council project, I started doing this material log. It really was very effective. Let me show this to you. If I attend a course, professional development course, put it on a table. At one bird's eye view, I have everything. I don't have to search from notes. Which date, what was the title of the course, what kind of impression I had about the course. Like now I'm having a course on gamification. It's really interesting. It talks about how games can be effectively used in classroom teaching. And what is the most important thing I learned? In a course, six weeks or 3 weeks or a 1 week course, there will be some important learning. That kind of, and what kind of actions, like you were saying, analyzing it or using it in the class. And then at the next column, did I do it? Having idea is fine, but did I do it? And useful contact list. This is very, very important. Useful contact list is when I do a course. Suppose I'm doing a course with University of Oregon. That seems to be very, very popular with the online courses. have to come across a teacher who actually was very effective in teaching digital, let's say, digital technologies, specifically some specific technology. You take their email ID and keep it in your contact list so that you can always get back to them, and they will definitely remember you and respond. So that kind of contacts you make, or you would have met another one in a discussion board, you would have met another teacher, and that teacher and you would have interacted. Take a note, keep their contacts. See, I am telling again, I told you, I'm reiterating, what I learned from my mistakes, I'm trying to tell. If you can do this, you would be the best network teacher, I tell you. So not just the professional development, conference and workshops, or let's say webinars like today, how we are done. After this, if you can make your impression, what was your impression about the webinar? Okay. And what was the important thing I learned? Did I learn? I'm planning to do something with that learning. See, what is the use in attending 1 hour or 1.5 hours of session and just, okay, it was nice. I hate the word nice, by the way. It was all okay. Then you forget about it. In your regular busy world, this importance of whatever learning you will stay for 2-3 days or 1 week at the most. Then you probably related topic, if you come, you'll probably remember it. But it will not be an effective way of learning. So just notes is what I have done notes. I'm telling you, I think the same. Taking notes is really good. I have done taking notes, but I am not used from that notes. I'm not taking ideas from the notes because I have notes. I mean, I don't read one book in a year or 6 months. So when I refer to too many books, my notes get lost. It really get lost. So we can do this. I mean, this is one kind of documenting, and that is the major area we teachers lack. We teachers. Now, how can this also be useful? Now, you are all familiar with NBA, NAC happening in our college. I don't know. I think I definitely know many of you are working for it. I mean, I've been working for NAC. Every NAC inspection or something, what they ask, how many conferences your teachers have attended, how many courses they have attended. Now, you maintain this document. Anytime your department asks, you are readily supplying it. You don't have to go search for your certificates and all. It's a documented evidence you're having. This would be a very, very useful, not just for your academic purpose, but for administrative purposes also. This is the journal articles. This is research scholars will find it very, very useful. Now, when you're doing your bibliography, first thing your supervisors is basically to read articles, read books, and maintain a bibliography. In fact, that was my first thing my supervisor told. First, make a bibliography, minimum of 50 books, 20 journals like that. So this kind of, and when we record this document and this kind of thing, it will be very, very useful when you're going back to your research. You know, see, this is that section, useful quotes. That's very useful because what are you looking at? Every article has one theme. So that particular quote you can take and you can use it in your own writing, your thesis, everything, and which page. Follow-up reading. This was someone had mentioned earlier. I would read a book connected with that. So any journal article should actually take you to another one, follow up. So this kind of documentation, if you can have a file, academic, like e-portfolio, you have an academic portfolio. This is what NAC, NBA all wants us to do. So if you can do this, it will organize your academic, let's say, academic career very well. The books, most use, see, again, as I said, in book, whole book may not be useful. Very rarely all books, all sections are useful. But certain sections are more relevant to me. Note down the pages and follow-up reading needed for the book. Yes, you can have that also mentioned in this. Because the author would have commented something, so you want to check out on that particular topic. Keep a note of that. And in fact, you should have another one column to say, did you read that? That also should be there. Okay, so I'm just given a few books which I thought would be interesting. Keep Talking is one thing which I have always watched for it. For teaching, speaking specifically, it is available online free. You can just download the PDF format. I forgot to write the author name, but just write Keep Talking in Google, you will get. And British Council Teaching English series, all the books are really good. English for Teaching is one particular book in BCL book series. I found it useful, but I couldn't download it. It is not available free. And Jack C. Richards is one of those stalwarts in ELT. This Teacher's Narrative Inquiry is very interesting book for a teacher. It's like a basic book you'll have to read. I've just given a few. There are a lot more books as such. Then I will be going on and on. I didn't want to flick my choice on you. These are the things. This is the teacher narrative is more of research oriented. Keep talking is classroom teaching. Teaching English for series and English for teaching are all related to teaching. That's why I focused on these four. Okay, this is another thing is internet resources. Now, when you get the subject matter, internet resources are today everything. Going more than reading books, now we Google for information. So you need to have documentation. And half the time, oh, I got an internet last time. I forgot to note down the site. How many times we have done that? So every time you access and you find something useful, record it. Keep a file and record it in that. And why do you think that is the best thing? Excuse me, what is noise?
This noise comes when there are two people using the same app in the same room.
Oh yeah, that mobile and the
Yes.
I think
So kindly request the participants to sit in separate rooms. If you are both in the same place, it will cause this noise.
okay, guys. Okay, coming back to this, what action do I intend to take? I mean, why did I found it useful? What action and whether you did? This will force you to see when that done column is empty, that will give you a guilt conscious. It will really be give you a guilt conscious. And see, some of the useful links I've given below. You can have a look at it. UEFAP is using English for academic purpose. That's a short form. And that is a very, I mean, those who are teaching engineering college specifically, or even any language teachers, even in arts and science college, because it talks about all functions related to language, listening, speaking, reading. Writing is the best in this. I would say reading and writing are the best. ESL Lab has a lot of listening files. Teacher training videos is by Russell Stannard. Russell Stannard is my technical guru, I would say. He is, I think last year in LTI, he came and gave a session also. But I found his Twitter videos and YouTube videos more informative than an LTI session, which was just talk. But teacher training videos, it is the separate websites. Like, you know, you were asking about technologies. I need to be updated, how to use this Zoom. Like, see, everything, how to go about using Zoom, how to use breakout room in Zoom, or any other aspect related to technology he answers. And in fact, you post a query, he will also respond to you. Nick Peachy's Blogspot is another very interesting. When I started blogging, he was my first teacher, I would say, all technical related queries, but only thing now he has become commercial with selling his books, which is very popular actually, lesson plans. He actually gives lesson plans also. LearnEnglish.com is a very wonderful site for classroom teaching. See, again, I'm giving only minor things. I mean, limited resources. I'm not giving all resources because with my 20 years experience, I think you'll get 20 pages, 20 slides there. Like English for Everyone is for reading comprehension. It's very good. Read It Works has questions also. English for Everyone has only reading material, whereas Read It Works, Read It Works, I think, Read Works. That has even questions also. But one problem with this kind of ready-made ones is teachers end up resorting to taking the materials as it is, which is actually not good. You have to be very conscious about taking items from the online, because you should remember whom we are teaching, our students who are much more, let's say, comfortable with technology. They can easily access. So we should be better adapted to our class. Links and usage for to our personal mail, I think. Okay, now coming back to this. Now, when we talk about internet resources, this so far what I've been talking was about how do I access subject material as a teacher. That brings to the next one. When I want to access, I need technical expertise. That brings to the technological aspect. Now, technology, there is digital literacy. Now we call it as digital literacy, which is part of 21st century skills. Every one of us should be having the skill. Teacher or student or anyone, it doesn't matter. We are supposed to have that digital literacy. A professional person who's working, forget working person today, even my grocer is having a Google Pay, or my newspaper vendor is saying, what, you don't have Google Pay? He's asking me. So the digital literacy has become compulsory for everyone. But coming to language teaching, technology and language teaching has been there for years. Now, when I say technology, I'm not talking only about computer. If you see the technology timeline, look at this. Even blackboard and chalk, it's supposed to be a teaching aid. This kind of old-fashioned technology in those days, abacus for mathematical, tape recorders, radio, TV, broadcast media was very, very effective in language teaching. I don't know whether any of my generation people are there. I remember in my school days, we used to be taken to the common room, TV room, where we have a TV for that 1 hour of language program, which they used to telecast. I don't know whether there are any people who remember that. We used to have that. So TV in a language classroom was a very important one. Then we had OHP, overhead projector. Then computers came in. Initial computers were a mainframe computers. Mainframe computers were huge. It had place only in defense, military, and universities, which was doing some research. It was not that great effective. It didn't reach out to the common man. Audio Center Language Lab came. I don't know whether you had experience in it. In fact, in our country, I think 3 places had it. Chennai, I think in Anna University we had, IIT had it, Hyderabad used to have it, and Bangalore also, I think, which some university had it. That was a very effective one. I have used Audio Active Language Lab, which was manually controlled, later computer controlled. We used to have with very effective for teaching listening. But once computer came in, PC was invented, then everyone could access the computers. Then computerized language lab came. After that, multimedia was discovered. Multimedia was really the most effective one, where, animation and visuals used to come. So that made learning even more exciting. But again, all this were based on LAN and WAN, that is local area network and wide area network. But once internet came, internet actually opened a lot more doors. But it took some time for us to join that internet revolution, I would say, until it was earlier days when we had BSNL, I think Videsh Sanchar Nigam Limited. We used to have dial-up connection. Dial-up connection, it was, okay, TV lectures, and someone had mentioned about TV lectures. That was, even now we are having TV channels, exclusive channel for education. Even some of our Doordarshan related lectures are still being telecast on TV. So coming back to internet, once BSNL started, from dial-up to broadband started, internet opened up. But once that mobile, I think social media was the one reason for it. When social media came up, that's it. Now we had internet in our hand. The mobile Android machines came up and social media opened up, even made the global world even more smaller. So the technology timeline, I would say, in this, and education in every aspect of this technology, role of technology in education has been very, very important. If you see the digital, when you talk about digital literacy, you must have heard these phrases: call, tell, tall, what's called computer assisted language or computer aided language learning, technology enabled language learning or technology assisted language learning. There are minor differences, yes. Computer assisted could be now computer as a tool, it is being used for in one part of education, or education itself is transmitted through the technology. It could be either way. E-learning. E-learning is learning through the online way. So that's e-learning. So digital literacy has become the need of the hour. As someone was saying, I think if you're not digitally literate, you probably will end up as a boomer. I don't know, boomer is supposed to be us older people. But even older people are today, I can't even say older people are not technically savvy, because I have seen some of older people take to technology very well. It depends, old or young, it doesn't matter. Because you think our students are technically very sound, but their technological knowledge is only with gaming and social media. Using it for the learning, they are not that proficient. Even today, if I give an assignment, my student will open the Google and he will end up downloading the first answer and cut, copy, paste. Maybe they are smarter in cut, copy, paste than older people. That's the only difference. Web tools. Now, web tools are plenty. There are so many web tools. I mean, organizing them, it will take another separate session in itself. Like tools, when I say web tools, it could be social media, or it could be this kind of meeting apps we're having, Zoom, or it can be screen file like that. Online digital literacy will include all this: online courses, everything. Blended learning. Blended learning is basically face to face and online, mixing both of it. Blended learning is having both, not just only online. You have one section, one part of the course is delivered face to face, another part is delivered online. That is blended. Flipped classroom is kind of a blended learning, where in the initial days in the classroom, teacher will teach and give homework at home for the student to do. Whereas in a flipped class, the student will learn about what is the topic at home. Probably listen to a YouTube lecture given by the teacher would have uploaded the lecture, and they'll come to class and do that homework as a classwork activity. Actual activity happens in the class. The learning happens in the home. So you're flipping the class, reversing the class of the traditional class. These are the different aspects of digital literacy. See, this is one aspect of the CPD, so I'm just touching on that. If you see in the teaching in the digital age, this is what I wanted to tell. How computers are being used. There are three ways we are being using it. It's resources, as a resource. Computers, when computers started, teachers started using it first as a resource. When I say resource, like I used to use the system to make PowerPoint. Okay, or to do my PowerPoint, I refer to too many books, online books. I refer to an online course. I refer to some kind of a material, online material. I collected material. I read up on something. So I'm using computer as a resource. Now, coming to tool, now if I want to deliver a lecture in my class, instead of just talking, I'm using a PowerPoint. Now I use a PowerPoint, projecting it on a projector on a wide screen. I'm teaching my students. Though I am teaching, I'm using projector and computer to deliver my lecture using that PowerPoint. All right. So that is a tool. Medium is what we are doing right now. I am talking about this topic using Cisco WebEx, which is a tool, which is actually a tool, but I'm using it as a medium. Through that I'm talking. It is not beside me. I am talking through that. So here it is a medium. Or we use WhatsApp for sending materials. So that is a medium. So I've given some kind of resources. Grammar websites was the first and foremost thing we started as a resource. Then any kind of language skills you use. Tools, as I said, these can be tools. Medium, social media apps, discussion forums, testing apps. I don't know whether you're familiar with Kahoot and Edpuzzle. I wish we had another one session where we can actually do. Kahoot is very interesting. You can explore on it. Kahoot is for making quizzes, online quizzes. Students would enjoy that. So when you teach in the digital age, these are the things you should know. You should realize in what way I'm going to use the technology, in how I'm going. But one problem with this, using technology is as a danger. You know, people are so fascinated by technology, both teachers and students. They're so enjoying technology. There is some problem where technology is used for the sake of technology. For the sake of, I'm using technology in a class, in a department. Oh, I use technology in class. But is it being effectively used? See, any technology without a pedagogy behind it is not an effective way of teaching. My research was on that, pedagogy-driven technology. Pedagogy is basically what? There should be a reason for it. Suppose I'm using a tool, then that technology should be needed by that learning. My learning should demand that kind of a technology. Otherwise, what I can just give a lecture, if I'm going to put it in a PowerPoint and read up from the PowerPoint, it is not effective teaching then. It is not effective use of technology. A technology, see, there are, as I told you, see, I have seen teachers do that. When we do this kind of a training, we used to give CDs with materials in it. I've seen teachers, play the CD and sit back. The teacher says, no, this is the time we relax. Technology is not supposed to take the role of teachers. It can never take the role of teachers. No, that is always this question used to come. Are teachers going to be replaced by technology? Definitely not. Any day our student will prefer us in spite of all our mood swings and anything. They would rather have a human teacher. So a technology, you can never see technology as, okay, I need to rest my voice. Let me play a movie. No, I've seen a lot of teachers using movie as an excuse. How are you going to use the movie? In fact, I remember when I first time wanted to use a movie, I think my HOD at my department was asking, what are you going to do with it? She actually made me a plan the lesson plan, give the activity so that I had a very clear picture when I was going for the movie. Otherwise, our students are also like who would like to enjoy time. They would also, ma'am, can you give popcorn? They've asked me, ma'am, are we showing movie? Can we also get popcorns? So our students, given the choice, would love to have fun. Nothing wrong in having fun, but the focus should also be on learning. So any kind of use of technology, you should actually have a plan, an objective in mind. What am I going to teach in this? You can't say, no, I'm going to teach review writing. Now, for that, doing that, first, which group are you? What is your target group? If it is a media student, review writing makes sense. Or even a general English, review writing makes sense. Engineering student need not be writing reviews. So first focus on the target group and give them the template, what they are supposed to be writing so that they have an idea. What kind of vocabulary are they looking at? So then you go about showing the movie. So the lesson plan that has a very very reasonable theory behind using the technology is what is the need of the hour. It is not just technology per se. It's a pedagogy-driven technology which you should be looking at. Not just because everyone is using technology, let me also use technology. No. Use technology when there is only a need for it. And look at this lockdown period. So far I was actually thinking, okay, I'm supposed to be good in technology. You become complacent after a point. Now, when lockdown happened, I was surprised. But because, see, I have used online courses, I was familiar. Right from 2002, I've been doing online courses from Coursera. So I was very comfortable. Webinars, I've attended webinars. So that was also comfortable for me. Because this online meeting apps I've never used. Because if I'm going to meet, I'm going to do face-to-face meeting. And if it is an international webinar, I'm going to use only webinar. It's not a meeting app. So suddenly with this lockdown, I was forced to learn Zoom, how to use Zoom, how to use breakout rooms, how to use WebEx. See, even today, technology throw us a sixer. Suddenly, in spite of me made a host, I couldn't enter. It said room is full. So technology always will give you such problem. It will be later. There will be always more to learn. So digital learning during lockdown, not just in every department out of say 20 teachers or 10 teachers, there'll be like 1 or 2% who are tech savvy. Not all of us are. There's nothing wrong in it. All of us don't have to be. Everyone has their strengths. But this lockdown period has forced everyone to turn towards technology. Even the teachers who have never used it, they are forced to use. So digital literacy has become the very basic skill required by everyone, especially by teachers during these online classes. So you need to be updated. What next? You can't assume, okay, this is it. I've learned. This is, I'm very good in technology now. I don't have to worry about it. No. Every other day, something new is being started. So you need to be keeping up with the latest. But what next after this, other than this meeting app, the latest one I would say is the gamification, which is, see, that's what, as I said, I'm learning. I'm actually doing a course on gamification. What is gamification is, I'm not language games which you do in class, using this kind of a computer gaming, okay, virtual gaming through which learning also happens, not teaching, learning. So gamification of the language environment is what the thing is. There is going to be a lot more interesting apps coming in where language learning happens through the gaming. The gaming is the hardcore gaming which the video gamers will know. Like, you have your Fire and PUBG and all that. So some kind of learning kind of a game which can happen. That is the new thing. And use of artificial intelligence. These two things would be the next big in the digital learning. Now, for all this learning to happen, we need to study a lot. We need to do a research. That brings to the third point as teacher, as a researcher. Now, what is research? Is cultivating a research-based approach to develop your teaching practice so that your effect as a teacher also changes. Now, let me tell you, teacher as a researcher, I have actually a problem. Now, not everyone will be a good researcher. Not all good researchers would be a good teacher. Because I have known some teachers who are very good, very warm, very friendly, very student friendly, to use that tech term, I would say. They are very student friendly, but they are not into research. That doesn't make them as a bad researcher. Same time, there are people who would have published 20 research papers, done postdoctoral degree and everything. But as a classroom teacher, they would have been so, they are not that popular with students. So in that case, why are we forcing ourselves to do research? But then today's need of the hour is one, all of us should have a doctoral degree. And for that, you should have done a research. And if you want to be a very good teacher, you need to have, let's say, some research experience. So you don't have to do it alone. You probably can get some help and do it. Because research as such, you see, it can actually find solutions. Suppose I'm having a problem, like someone said, how do I handle large classroom? That itself is a research. There are research being conducted on how to handle the large classroom. In fact, I remember once in one webinar, some foreign person was saying, I have a large classroom. I said, how many people you have? He said, 25. I was shocked. 25 is a small classroom, sir. I have 75 to 80. He was shocked. How can you do a language activity for 75 people? I said, I don't look it as 75. I look it as a 10 groups. I divided 75 into 10 groups. Now 10 groups of, let's say, 7 to 8 people. I can manage 10 groups. So that kind of thing comes only with experimenting. Research is nothing but experimenting. It actually underpins the knowledge you learned, and in application, you're trying it out. And it also connects you. So that, see, I can talk to the other teacher and say, hey, I tried this out. Do you think this will work? Sharing it happened. And it also, see, clarify why are you doing it. So research can give you that focus. It will also, another thing is, you will develop as a teacher your voice in your own profession. Like people read about your articles, people come across your project, they say, oh, this person is really good. He or she is talking sense. So your reputation also grows. So research becomes very important. So whether you're good or bad at it, you need to work around that to make yourself do it. Research, see, just because some of us will say, oh, I finished my doctoral degree, that's it, done, no more learning. No. In a teaching profession, you cannot say that word, I have reached my saturation point. I cannot learn more than that. That is a death knell for a teacher. So research is one way that can keep our learning, let's say, learning need alive. As a researcher, you're constantly learning. You will be teacher as a researcher. How do you go about doing it? Writing journal articles, minor and major projects of UGC. In fact, for English, not many takers are there. So there will be a lot of people who might, I mean, earlier, nowadays, I think people are open up to the fact. So there are takers, but you can still, UGC offers action research. Forget UGC or anything. Action research is individual small time research, which you can do it within your institution. There are institutes which support such action research by giving some small funding, like our university does. There might be other universities also doing that. So doctoral and postdoctoral, there are postdoctoral research. In fact, I was very interested, but the thing is getting into it is a big long-term process. If you can do it, since you can even do that postdoctoral research, doctoral and postdoctoral. Or in fact, when I was planning to do postdoctoral, my teacher told me, why don't you do project? That's much more satisfactory and short-term. Postdoctoral remains on paper. There is projects you actually do something. So collaborative projects is one wonderful idea. See, this is certain things. Collaborative projects, you don't have to look only at government. Government cannot fund all of us, or institution may not have the funding. Forget, I'm in an engineering university, so I know it will go, all the funding will go to the technical department, and for English, nothing. I faced it. So you look up for this kind of a private institution like British Council or American State of English, I mean, State Department for English. They have wonderful project. This ARMS and ELTRIMS, we have been, I think ARMS is Action Research Mentoring Scheme. I don't know, is anyone have been part of it? ELTRIMS is English Language Teaching Research Mentor Scheme. I have been part of ELTRIMS, so I do know about that. ARMS, some of my colleagues were part of it. It's a very good experience where they give you the funding and they expect you to do research, and they also give you the support. Some kind of mentoring also happens. So these kind of, you should always constantly look out for these kind of organizations who announce. I don't know whether next year they're going to announce, but you need to look out for that. You need to actually, as a teacher, you need to look out for these kind of information. You need to be part of that kind of a group. where you get that kind of information. And that brings me to the last one of networking. Now, networking is where, as I said, as a teacher, as a researcher, I may not be good in research, but I can join with another person and do the research. Okay, I don't have the information about this British Council project, but I should know someone who has that information. So, kind of networking will help you get that kind of information. So, collaborative learning can happen. You can share information, share knowledge. A lot of sharing can happen. Nowadays, thanks to technology, remember, if you're digitally literate, you can have your online and offline groups, both. Online, in fact, I remember in my initial teaching days, I think I joined MOP in the 2002 or something. After working as an engineering college teacher, I found teaching literature very scary. I think Meenakshi College teachers are all there. They probably, they might, I think they would have experienced it in the starting stage. You know, for me, it was very scary because I was teaching language to them. So I remember posting a query, you know, teaching Shakespeare to students. I got a teacher who was 20, 30 years experience who gave me a lot of feedback, lot of tips and lot of links. It was so useful. I was so thankful. These kind of things was that I the teacher, she is somewhere from, I think, Europe, not even UK or America. It was some other European, Scandinavian country, Norway. I remember right. Yes, Norway. It was so very useful for me. And I still thank her. I don't remember her name also. But that happened only because I was part of an English teacher, international English teachers group. So you need to be part of that kind of groups. Or you can even have your own focus groups. In fact, one of our research scholar did thesis on that, you know, having a small group where a group of teachers, 5 to 10, not to 10, 8 to 10 teachers come together. And once in a month, they thrash out the issues they face in the classroom and each one gives suggestions, some kind of solutions, or they also sit together and write a paper. You know, writing an article is actually not so easy because in these days, getting published is, you know, publish or perish is becoming a part of our Indian lifestyle. Teachers' lifestyle also. So it was very useful when you work in groups, special interest groups. This is very, very useful. Suppose my area is technology, so I can join technology SIG. Special interest group is called as SIG. So I can join one of those special interest groups, so I can focus on that particular area itself. So that collaborating can be for a research, can be for a journal article, or writing a book. Nowadays, there is a market for books, textbooks. It can be a textbook or it can be any kind of an activity books. You can come up with it. See, when you do it individually, it's a little daunting. You do it with 2, 3 people, you are having your institutional backup also, and you have some collaboration also, it really works. Or even it can be material design. You probably can pull in and make material, upload, have a blog, have a website. Your online resources are plenty that will help you to, you don't even have to wait for, you know, someone to publish it. You can maintain a website it's today's, in thanks to Google and all, you can put up a website very easily. And once your website start getting popular, the hits are popular, it can even make money out of it. Or someone will come and say, okay, the materials, we are ready to publish it also. So you can have all that only if you're networking. If I'm going to be a teacher who's going to sit let me read a book and update myself, go to class and teach, yes, fine, you're good. But you're living in your own pond. You can't be frog in the pond these days. You need to reach out for others. You need to network. You need to talk to others. You need to share ideas. You can't keep your own good idea because each one thing I've noticed is earlier I used to think, okay, we are teaching in Chennai, we know everything. No, there are a lot of interesting things happening outside Chennai. Once I went for a CPD program somewhere in Coimbatore. We are doing a lot more. Using Google Classroom, we are doing it now. They have been doing that 2, 3 years back. Google Classroom is part of the day-to-day class itself. I was so surprised because for us, there is no one forced us to do that. It depends on private institutions. So never assume that living in working in a very fancy college, we know everything. There are a lot of new things happening even in a small towns or small villages also. Because see, their needs are more. They actually have a lot more problems and they are able to they're able to address it more successfully, but they are not sharing it, that they don't have access for sharing. That access you should be having. And that's when, you know, being a part of professional organization helps. Like it could be LTI, English Language Teachers Association of India. In our country, this is one of those prominent organization. Or IATFL. IATFL is international level. Or you have special interest groups. I mean, SIG is special interest group. That SIG groups is IATFL SIGs are very famous. It's a lot of Facebook pages are there on that. Or RELO is Regional English Language Office of US Embassies. They have lot of programs, webinars, conferences, workshops, or even good websites. They used to give links. The Facebook page of RELO is also very popular. You should be part of it to stay informed. Let me put it that way, to stay informed of what is happening in the latest in your profession. You need to be part of these kind of organization. I have just put down what I know. As I told you, there are a lot of people who know more than me. You probably can add up to this. If you can even put it in the chat box, others can also learn. So is there any other, there's Amity University, they have a group. I forgot, INEC, I think, AINEC, I think. That is also an interesting organization. A group of people came together, started an organization. They started writing paper and they started publishing. And from small group, now it has become a very big group, which is having national and international conferences. So that is how you start. You start from small and you probably can grow big, or you can stay small so that you are easily accessible. So if you see, this is what I wanted. I wanted you to have a look at this video, a short video, so that you can take a break from my voice also. One sec. One sec. Can you see this? Okay.
You want me to share it, ma'am?
No, wait. I'll try. I'm sharing multimedia content, right?
Yes.
One
Or you
sec.
can just play the video and share screen.
Okay, I'll do that. Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the video. Hey, it is not sharing. One sec.
Take your time, ma'am.
This share content will work, huh?
Yes.
Okay,
Then you
yeah.
just need to open the file after you share.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Now sharing. Now sharing.
Is it playing?
Yes.
Is it playing?
What is the video, ma'am?
Yes. Yes.
Walter, can you see the video?
Yes, it's playing, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, this is actually what I wanted to share was the core skills needed by the new generation teachers. If you remember, it talks about collaboration, critical thinking, digital literacy, all that. What you should be doing is check out where you stand, which skill you think you need more help, and then you identify it so that You can have your own log, let's say continuing professional development log, which you can identify what kind of content you want and where will you look out for that content. It can be in a course, or it can be in a webinar or a conference, or it could be an article, read a book, or whatever will works for you. Decide on what area you want to concentrate and what mode you want to do it. And you remember the tables I showed. Try to use the table in a practical way so that you can document it and use it. That using part is very important. So the cycle should be like this. First, you identify which area you want to focus, plan, decide on the learning activity so that you learn. You learn from the course and decide on the activity. Reflect on your learning. This learning activity, learning part is where the CPD comes. Reflect on your learning, apply your learning, apply in the sense that will be happening in your classroom. Sharing, the networking part comes in here where you can share. This learning activities where your digital literacy or wherever you're learning, whether it can be a course or it can be an online, whatever thing that happens in the second stage. Networking happens in your fifth stage. This cycle should be complete for you to be a good teacher. That would be the, okay, now remember, let's go back to this KWL. I think I've been speaking continuously. First one, I asked you to make a note of what do you know, what do you want to know, what did you learn. See, I know I touched briefly on every area. I have not gone in exclusion about one specific area. Since it is CPD, the 4 different aspects of it I was talking. So try to go back to the table and use another one. How do I use what I had learned? Remember the table which has the, done column was there? So that part. So for KWL chart, remember I said whatever items I take from online or book, I adapt it. This KWL, U is my add-on. So how do I use what I had learned? If you can put down in your table these 4 columns. Himanshu, please, can you mention your comment in the chat box? Cannot annotate here. Okay. I'm just giving you 1 minute for you to write, or you can go back and write. No hurry now. Okay. Basically, I've come to the end of the session. Are there any questions? Can we go back to open the chat box? Any questions? Any questions is there? I can answer. I know it is a brief overview for 1 hour. I don't think we can go in detail for anything. Any questions? Can you post the question in the chat box? Accent English, please. Ramkumar is asking. Okay, let me put it down. This rural students today even rural people in rural areas have access to mobile, and mobile WhatsApp are very common access. I think taking technology cannot be that difficult. Yes, there is going to be a problem. Not all schools have computers and language labs. But my suggestion is, why don't you think of MALL, Mobile Assisted Language Learning? Are you really thinking it's internet issues? What about students who are facing internet issues? Later, language teaching. Okay, internet issue is a problem. I am not negating it is not a problem. Even my own, I am conducting online class. I have students who come and say, ma'am, I don't have the mobile data. My mobile data went off in that. See, Zoom classes, I believe one of my research scholar, in our department research scholar, he was attending a session. He said, I can attend only for 20 minutes. My mobile data goes off. And he is in Chennai. He's not even in any rural area. So that is going to be an issue. Now, one you can address is, we can record it, upload it in a YouTube channel so they can download and watch, or you can ask them to share their resources. You can club the students who are having access to technology, club them. I have done that. So I've asked the student, now see, in a lockdown period where social distancing is a problem, yes, that is also not possible. So I have told them, I will send my videos separately to that students. Yes, we can address, it is not impossible. Technology teaching with understanding measures, ma'am. I didn't understand. Arul, I didn't get your point. I was talking about technology, pedagogy driven technology, where any kind of use of technology has a valid reason. Okay, webinar certificates are supposed to be equivalent only. How to develop language of the law students for developing argumentative skill. Hey, there are one course is there for teaching argumentative skill. A wonderful course where I was also surprised to who will have a course for teaching argumentative skill. There is an online course for teaching argumentative skill. And there is one more book for English for law. Vishnu Priyan. I'm telling this to Vishnu Priyan. He was the one who was asking. Law students, there is a specialized book itself is there, and there is a course specifically for teaching argumentative writing and speaking. Any other question? Latest digital media, there are so many digital media available. You'll have to choose which is relevant to your class. For example, if I'm talking about rural students, I will even be happy with a WhatsApp. WhatsApp, most of us are having WhatsApp. Today in India, most of us have WhatsApp, even in rural areas have WhatsApp. So only thing is, you can send videos to that, listening material through that. I'm telling you, see, okay, suggest online course on using digital resources. Hey, blended learning course in Coursera is wonderful course. You should take it up. Blended learning course, which tells you, but using digital resources, I'm not sure blended learning is the one. There are materials available which says, 10 apps. YouTube has, go and search for best 10 apps for teaching. It comes with apps like Padlet and all it teaches. Peer review, teacher-student rapport. Yes, I agree. Teacher-student rapport, I personally would prefer this kind of a webinar to a workshop one-to-one. I would directly be looking at you and answering you. I would definitely have built up rapport, and that rapport would, see, most of the people I know through workshop and conferences, it becomes some of them become very good friends also. That happens only in the face-to-face session, not an online session. That is, rapport is definitely missed. But still, when situation is like this, we have to do it, right? It's a lockdown period, it's a fact. We cannot have a face-to-face session. So alternate is this. Books for mastering digital literacy. Okay, Shru Gopi, you better use digital media so that when you start using it, you'll master. Come on, it's like English. How do we tell our students about English? English is like cycling and swimming. I usually use that metaphor. For cycling and swimming, don't you sit on the cycle and then start learning cycling? Don't you get into water to start swimming? Similarly, digital literacy is you start using digital media. Once you start using, see, you might make a mistake. You might not. You will make mistake, but you learn from mistake. You start using it, you become expert in it. That's all. It's as simple as that. See, I have, like Anand has said, short video lectures on WhatsApp, and they have welcomed it. Good. See, this is what I'm saying. We are experimenting. All teachers are experimenting. Try experimenting. Don't sit worrying about, oh, I can't do. That is a problem. Okay, online forum profession. That's a good idea. Online forum, we don't have one. We should have one. I think LTech forum was there. I don't know whether it is still there. ELTECH, LTech forum, we did have a forum, and I used to have a lot of discussion in that. But now I don't know whether it is active. It usually needs someone interested. LTech, ELTECH. I don't know whether it is still active. Someone can tell me because I'm out of it now. We used to, remember I told you about this Shakespeare thing? That was in one international forum. Yeah, Vadivel is the one who said LTech. Is it still active, Vadivel? Because there are a lot of, okay, Google Meet is also popular. See, that's what I'm not used Google Meet. I think day after tomorrow I have a session in Google Meet. I will learn now. See, this is one thing. When you start experimenting, you start learning. And you find one which is very comfortable. E-testing feasible for all students. See, I have conducted online testing using Google Forms. I have used Kahoot. Google Forms are really effective, and Google Classroom has assignment section. Edpuzzle is there. I've used all this. It really works. Kahoot is very good for a classroom testing. People enjoy that, all the music background and all that. They enjoy. Okay, any other queries? Very active audience in chat box.
Hello.
I've been asking my students. Yes, Chinmay,
Yes.
yes, Kavita.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I am there, Chinmay Preetham. Ma'am, thank you so much, ma'am. First
Okay.
of all, I express my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to Dr. Sujata Priyadarshini, ma'am, for addressing to our group. That was a wonderful session, ma'am, and thanks for
Yeah.
an excellent presentation. I appreciate the time which you have taken for us and you have shared with us today and given that much so much knowledge you have poured with us. Thank you so much, ma'am. My sincere thanks to my management, my HOD, and my EFL team for the effort taken for this success of this webinar. I extend my sincere thanks to all the participants for joining with us today. I thank everybody, and my special thanks to Sylvia and Dr. Rama ma'am for this continuous effort taken for this webinar. Thank you all, one and all, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. I request Rama ma'am to take it, of course.
Yes. Thank you, Kavita. Sujata ma'am, I think you gave us so much of insight that every slide I think has to be dealt with as a separate session. Especially the ones on these quiz like Kahoot and AHA slides. I think we should have something as a, because students love these quizzes more than the regular classes. So they would love to learn through that. So I think if we can have a special session on these quiz forums, I think it will be very good, ma'am. Probably we can plan one. Thank you so much, ma'am. So many insights. I think we still have to, really come to grips with the situation that we've learned so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Walter. Thank you for your technical help.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Walter sir, thank you so
Welcome.
much. Walter sir, thank you so much.
Welcome, Kavita ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Sujata ma'am, thank you so much for accepting everything and being here as a part. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Ma'am, thank you so much. You were such a charismatic personality.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you so
can
much.
share-
Wonderful,
okay.
wonderful session.
Okay, you can share the PowerPoint.
ரெடி பண்ணாம ஃபர்ஸ்ட் அந்த போட்டீங்கன்னா நல்லா
Yes,
இருக்கும்.
ma'am. I have unmuted the participants. If anybody would like to give a feedback, they can give.
வீட்ல இருந்து அவங்க ட்ரைனிங் பண்ணுவாங்க, ட்ரைனிங் சர்டிபிகேட் கொடுப்பாங்க. இவங்களுக்கும் நேக்குக்கும்
Hello.
லாக்டவுன் பீரியட்ல இன்ஸ்டிடியூஷனல் ட்ரைனிங் முடிச்சிருக்காங்க பசங்க நான் 2 வாரங்கிட்ட பேசுறேன் என்னன்னு.
Exit now.
Shall we exit now?
நான் சொல்றேன்.
Ma'am, shall we exit now?
ஃபேர்வெல் தான் இல்ல. 3rd இயர் மட்டும் ஒரு நாள் பிள்ளைகள கூகுள் மீட்.
Ma'am, shall we exit now? Rama ma'am, shall we exit now?
Yes.
Kavita ma'am, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Sujata ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am. Bye. இங்க type பண்ணு.
Sylvia,
Ma'am,
I think you have to give the link for them for their. Many are asking about certificates.
ma'am,
So I think you have to.
ma'am, we
Okay,
will be giving the mail, ma'am. We will be sending a mail
Okay.
to each